So rare when you sign onto a project that it has an existing fan base. With this being adapted from such a popular IP, how were you able to find the balance between honoring the source material but also putting your own creative stamp on it?
Well, I think it's important to understand that there is a difference between a written material and then the art form of cinema, right? You have one that is read and internalized, and I find that the simplest way to kind of describe it for audience is that a lot of times in novels you're able to talk about what the person's thinking. Well, in film and TV, we don't necessarily have that ability unless you use very extended voiceover, right?
Mm,
So, to answer your question, on the first part, for honoring the source material, I had the pleasure of actually speaking with Tay, the original author, reading the novel, of course, and understanding, where the characters are coming from, as well as the screenwriters, and understanding their intent, making sure that authentically the spirit of the novel is still maintained. Because at the end of the day, I want to make sure all the fans are happy
yeah.
with this interpretation of the novel, right? And then on the other side, while we do have to make some creative choices, and the creative choices still honors the story, but we have to figure out what is the best way to kind of translate it cinematically, and that could mean
Mm.
what do we show more of, less than telling, versus in a novel form.
Great answer. I think what's so compelling about this film is that when you see these characters and the world that you built, it reflects what audiences see in their day-to-day lives. And you really push for that proper representation on screen. Why has that been so fundamental to your DNA as a director? And how do you hope this project will continue to open future doors for people who look like us, both in front of and behind the camera?
Well, I think that we had to face the reality in a positive way that we live in a very multicultural society in North America and the world. And I want to make sure that whenever we have the opportunity, we paint the world with authenticity. Now, if there's a certain film that's set in a certain period, I also want to make sure that it's authentic to that. But in this particular world and film, I had the blessing of Tay when we had casted Sienna Agudong as Dallas. And there was a lot of her personal culture being Filipino that was able to actually enhance the story, right?
Mhm.
Able to not only just tap into the culture, but lean into the culture and some of those nuances that would actually build the character. Now, having seen the film, you're aware that obviously, much like the book, she lost her parents, and navigating that with her brother, with that kind of cultural context, I think is really important. And doing it, visually with authenticity. That means so a lot of the details that we use, which are, I think, so brilliantly executed, and is the combination of, like, say, the costume design and using
Yeah.
that Filipino charm that she has on her neck, and how Sienna herself as an actor was able to tap into that whenever she felt the presence of her mother or wanted to speak to her mother or remind herself of her parents, right? So I think that whenever we're building worlds, whether it's even set in the present day, I want to do it with authenticity. And I think that we owe it to our audiences to do so, but also to greater society that not only proper representation of characters on camera in the world, but also behind the camera. And I'm very, very proud that, we have, an incredible Métis production designer and art director. We have great representation really across the board behind the camera,
Yeah.
and that begins with me pushing for these young upcoming talents as well as established talents, but also the studio for also accepting them. So, yeah, I think as a director, it's important for me to do it right.
Yeah, and credit to you as well, because you were able to have these diverse characters and actors, but you don't have to call attention to it. It's done in such a subtle way. And perfect segue with this next question that I have for you. But
Yeah.
there is a really interesting contrast in your ensemble where you have these veteran actors and a lot of these fresh faces. And so often with stories that have these quote unquote adult characters, they're in service of the younger ensemble. But here, everybody has such a three-dimensional storyline. How were you able to adjust your directing styles to fit the need of each individual cast member, but also create that space for them to play with the playfulness of the script, but also those heartfelt moments?
Well, I think first and foremost, as a director, I believe in the mantra and the philosophy that you have to create a positive and inclusive environment to play, and that means allowing the opportunity for them to express their thoughts, listen to what they feel, listen to their personal stories, and I think that that's step one, is to be able to hear what their perspectives are, and then step two is to lean on their personal experiences, right? And this could be from many, many years of film and TV experience. This could also mean their personal experiences in life, whether they've lost someone near and dear to them, whether they have been chasing a dream for a long time. These are some commonalities that I think that are just truly universal. And my approach, whether you're an experienced actor or a fresh new actor, is to give them the space to express themselves, uh,
Mm,
and uh, and just yeah, let them blossom. And I think that that's the way to do it. And creating the environment where we allow the actors themselves to also interact, so they're not all siloed.
yeah.
To make sure that when you have a scene partner, the two actors have actually met and discussed the scene together and rehearsed as much as possible, and giving them the freedom to ask questions.